So today we're learning Hechaltzu from the Rebbe Rashab. We're in chapter 9, Peirik Tes. Just to recap briefly what we learned in Peirik Tes, yesterday's shir, on page 68 in the lessons in Hechaltzu Sefer. So the chptr, I'm reading the chptr now, the synopsis of the chapter. Hefish, the Sfiras, the Tikkun, B'toyu. We explained the difference between the emanations, what we call the Sfiras, of Tikkun, the world of correction. Tikkun means to correct. And Toyu is the world of chaos. Chaos. And I spent quite a bit of time explaining those things yesterday, so I'm not going to repeat it. Which is also, the Rebbe said, Bitul v'yeshus. Tikkun has as its modus operandi bitul, humility, subservience to Hashem. And Toyu, even though it's a creation of God and a world of God, nevertheless, its modus operandi is Yeshus, ego orientation, as we explained yesterday. And the Rebbe also said yesterday that this is also comparable to Shuv v'Rotzui. Shuv means retreat, bring it home, have it be settled. And the Rotzui is the yearning, the longing, at times very passionate but outrageous. It's interesting, if you look into the last chapter, which I hope you all will do, when you review this, you'll see that first the Rebbe explained Tohu, and only afterwards Tikkun. And here I point out again that the Kitzurim, the synopsis written by the Rabbeim, aren't just a summary of the chapter, as a regular author would do. But the Kitzurim themselves need to be studied and understood well. And here we see an example of that. In the chapter 8, he first explained this, the whole idea of Toyu, and then he went to Tikkun. In the chptr, what does he do? He reverses. He says the difference between the Sfiras of Tikkun and Toyu. He should have said the difference between first Toyu and then Tikkun, Yeshus and then Bittul, Rotzi and then Shuv, because that's the chronology of the chapter. He doesn't do that. So you have to ask yourself why. And the explanation is, just as a layman's explanation, the purpose in life and the ultimate purpose of God's plan is tikkun. So when it comes to the chptr, when he's giving you the bottom line, the synopsis, what you should, the walk away, he goes right to the most important thing, tikkun, shuv, bittul, and only afterwards kind of walk backwards and understand how it's greater and different and what's the purpose over chaos, yeshus, and rotzui. That's, again, I didn't see this written anyway, it's just a thought that came to my mind, but clearly the reversal is very clear. If you learn the chapter, you look at the chptr, it's blatant. Okay. We also learned, he says, Yeshus sibas lepirut. Ego, Yeshus, is the cause for separation, divisiveness, v'sinos chinam, and baseless hatred. Okay, let's go now to Ois Tes, page 69. V'hinei zeu gam kein asiba masha nitzmach sina beinish l'rei. This is also the reason why there sprouts forth hatred between one and another. Without any logic and reason, but for only one purpose, which is, I cannot tolerate him. And he only sees him with a bad eye. He says in Yiddish. I'm sorry. To the point where the other person is disgusting in his eyes. Gam kol hatoiv shaboy, All, even the good that the other person does to this person that hates him, it's all disgusting. He annuls and humiliates and embarrasses the entire avodah shel re'ehu of his of the other person, v'kiyum ha'torah mitzvahs, and the fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs of the other person, shaloi. He says, your mitzvahs are nothing, your Torah nothing, and he just keeps on poo-pooing him to the point that he despises him. And although the other person didn't do any bad to him at all, not only that, this fellow that has this attitude towards him doesn't intend on doing anything in actuality to hurt him. It's only that in his heart is not complete with him, meaning, and even more, it's not complete. He hates him. And it's all b'lei tam v'das, without logic and reason. So this is a repetition kind of what we learned before, but he's summing it up in these words. Zeu amru achechem, next page, seinechem. It says, Yeshaya achechem, your brothers, seinechem, hate you. Sha'achechem heima seinechem. It's your brothers who hate you. And he says, the och hu loshin chibur. There is the literal meaning of och is brother, but also there's a sisum ich. Och can be read as ich, which means to join. Even when there's nothing to separate the two. You see, therefore they're called brothers because they're bonded and joined and connected. When we call Mokaim, the verse says, Heim soinehem, they hate you, specifically they. Without logic and reasoning, because he cannot tolerate him. Therefore, he is not happy with the person's content and peacefulness and goodness. When he hears that the other person is having, things are going fine and all of that, it eats at him. He can't take it. And he says, "Ulehepech," and in the contrary, Yismach bilevavoi. His heart will have happiness. Be Yisurav Chas V'Sholom Nachmon L'Zlan, when he hears that the person is suffering. God forbid. Inside his heart, he's saying, that's good that he's suffering. And even if he's not happy about it, lo yitzta'er al zeh, he's not troubled by it. Asher be'emes, because in truth, tzrichim liyitzta'er al yisurei zu losoi, one should be in pain, should be troubled when he hears about another person suffering. One second. Yoiser mi yisudei atzmei rachmon litzlan, more than his own pain. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm struggling with this. Very good for, somebody who maybe you don't know or you have no, but when you see people who mamash are doing things which are hurtful, they're your brothers, but in your mind they are wicked people. This is a very high bar. And you're supposed to let's make it practical, right? There are people who we have a war going on now, and they appear to be, by their actions and their words, even though they're Yidden, they appear to be supporting Hamas. And I'm supposed to, if that person has some kind of downfall or suffering, I'm not supposed to think, oh, that's a good thing. And I'm supposed to feel compassion for them. I'm just having a hard time wrapping my head around that.
Okay. You need to separate the person from what he's doing. That's the yesod for you to either succeed or not succeed. And usually we don't. It goes back to a yesod of Tanya, of Torah, but the way the Alter Rebbe explains it, which is, who is the Yid? The Neshama. Are you going to say the Neshama is evil? The Neshama is Ra? God, that's an oxymoron. If Hashem gives a Neshama to a person, the Neshama is pure. In other words, then,
even if he goes to the Holocaust denial conference in Iran.
Yes.
With his pious.
Yes, with his pious. Yes. Yes. You're a smart guy. You're a philosopher. It's an oxymoron. If God gives, if Hashem gives a neshama to Hairi, where does it say that a person who goes to Iran and talks against us doesn't have a neshama? If you find me such a mucker, we could talk. If there's no such a mucker, you could say what?
You could say Erev Rav.
That's a different thing. That's all because of the Maisa, the behavior. The behavior is despicable. And Bisman Shebeis Hamikdash Kayim, it was a bezdin and all that. There would be punishment and nidui and alles. That's all true, but that's all mitzvah the behavior. What the Rashab is talking here about is, he's talking about separate the two. So, and if you learn Tanya, more Tanya, and you understand that the Alter Rebbe wants us to have mercy, Rachmanis, on that person that's going to Iran with his pious. He's fallen so far, and he's so farmished, and he's so involved in shtuyot, that I have mercy on his soul. A real mercy. That's what he's talking about here. So, and another thing is, sir, there is a pasuk, and you've heard it over and over, when the downfall of your enemy, don't be happy. That's talking about a goy, an enemy. No? What do you say with that pasuk? Al tismach. Koshke, needless to say, when it's your own brother and sister, b'nefoil, when they are oivecha because they do terrible things, al tismach. So if you need a chazal to support what the Rashab is saying here, I would use that support. This doesn't make it easier. What I mean to say, I understand your struggle. Believe me, I have the same struggles. Okay? But when you sit back and you see people who are able, and there are such people, who are able to let go and not carry hatred towards people who mamish are doing, like you say, things against Hashem, A, they're happier people, and B, they accomplish more. Because at the end of the day, and I've seen this, and I assume you've seen it, but I've seen it, when you're able to back off, and you're able not to have that hatred, and it takes a long time, it takes a lot of work, they ultimately sense it. I'm not saying it's always this way, there's no guarantee, but a lot of the times, or many of the times, or some of the times, whatever, they realize, and they start, whether they approach you for assistance or others, they soften up. Just had it Thursday night, at a Farbrengen. Farbrengen, it's all, guys, Chevre, Lubavitch, not Lubavitch, were there to listen. It was Chai Yellow. Farbrengen was pretty much, sermons. I'm very against a Farbrengen being a sermon. I mean, against. It's not a Farbrengen, it's a drusha. It's a shear. A Farbrengen is a whole different world. So this is one of my pet peeves over the years. So they brought a rabbi, a Lubavitcher, he was a big Talmud Chacham, and a Chassidish guy, a 75-year-old man, not a child, from an hour and a half away. He's a classmate of our local mashpia, who's a wonderful person and one of the top in Chabad. And our mashpia, for whatever reason, I'm not going to go into it now, was kept on talking and talking and talking. And he was, sometimes not animated. He was more animated because one of his best friends, classmate, childhood, teenhood, the guys were, excuse the expression, in the bar together. You know what I mean? In yeshiva together. It's like two buddies from college, right? That really liked each other and had a relationship. And here they're 50 years later sitting with their white beards at a Farbrengen in Borough Park. It's just a style. It's a whole. And I saw that this is, here's a man who came an hour and a half, and our mashpia is not that he's not letting him talk, he's just talking the whole time. He doesn't get a chance. And he's not rude. So I after they finished the nigun, I told over a story. And the story was a very, very sharp story. I don't want to repeat it now, but it was a story that you would say, 3, 4 in the morning after a lot of l'chaim. You know what I'm saying? It was a very heavy type of story, like that you wouldn't normally say it. And I told them that a Litvisher Rosh Hashiva's son, who I know in Lakewood, was reading my book about Rabbi Yoel Kahn, one of my books, and he called me about this story because I put the story into the book. Why I did it is another reason. I don't want to go into it, but it's there. And he said to me that, he said he has respect, he has respect, and and I respect him, he respects. He says, I'm surprised, Rabbi Dalfin. This story is like what are you trying to say? The story of Bekitzer is that a big chassid, came to a Farbrengen in Kiev from Moscow or wherever he was. And they were davening Ma'ariv, and the Rav was a Litvisher Rav, and he was making, movements during davening with his hands and his eye, what we call in Chabad shtick. Okay? And he meant it. And all of a sudden, in middle of Shemoneh Esrei, boom, a herring ends up in his face. He continues davening, and he finishes davening. The Rav goes over to the person. Do you know who threw this herring into my face? How did a herring get into my face? So they said, you see the guest speaker who came from Moscow to Farbrengen, it was Yutas Kislev. He threw it at you. So the Rav goes over to the guest speaker and he says, I want to apologize, I want to apologize if I upset you somehow and you threw this at me. And the speaker said to him, boy, did you upset me. It's Yutas Kislev tonight. You're davening with such a show, and you have to daven right in front of my face. Like, you want to daven that way, go to a corner, hide yourself, and play around over there. And the Rebbe apologized to him. Now, there's many, that's the story. So I shared that story, and the place was like, oh boy. And I said it not to, to hurt anyone, but to get the mashpia in our shul to maybe be quiet. Because I said, I know what the mashpia thinks about the story, because I have a relationship with him. I'd like to hear what the guest has to do. And from then on, the Farbrengen switched over and the guest spoke. So, why am I saying this to you guys here? because it's the same story.
It's like when the police throw the spikes in the middle of the road to keep the car that's speeding away.
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm saying is, just to follow up as addressing your question, your point. There was a way of dealing with the worst of the worst, and sometimes it takes a little, different approach, and you could open up and you could find solace. And really, someone just came over to me now who was at the Farbrengen. Now it's Tuesday, the Farbrengen was Thursday night. He says, I thank you for what you said. It changed the whole mood of the Farbrengen. And it became a real Farbrengen, no sermons, because then someone else said something, someone else got ticked off, and that's what a Farbrengen is. That's it. That's all I can tell you. So if we need Chazal, I would say the Hechaltzu Tismach would be a source. Practically, a Jew's pain is very painful. And I want to say one more thing, Issa, just because it's important, the point you made and our dialogue on this. Every time you have such a feeling, ask yourself, what about me? What about me? Do I want Hashem to have mercy on me when I do something really bad, really no good? And as a Jew, and as Chassid in particular, I think we can find quite a bit that we do that's not good. That's ugly. And we don't want Hashem to bring it up, especially now with the Yom HaNoraim coming. So what do we want? We want Rachmanis. That's the whole idea of Yidam Malkeinu. Have mercy. You give me Sarachamim. It's the whole Aveda now. No? Why? So you'll say, well, he's not going to Iran with his payas and speaking pro-PLO. No? And when I do something that is wrong, and it's worse, I know better. He doesn't know better with his pious and everything. He's, what does he know? He knows, that's all he knows. I know better. I learned Chassidus. I have a Rebbe, etc. And I'm this way. So I'm a lot more accountable. That's it. And then one more point. If you can't reach this plateau, and it's difficult, and I understand, you need to first create a buffer zone. The buffer zone is, don't have anything to do initially with this person or these people. You're not ready yet to engage and in a healthy way, because it will cause sinna. And for now, stay away. Stay away, get them out of your mind and heart, and accept that everything's from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, v'chulu. And I just remind myself now, that the Alter Rebbe brings it in Tanya, Shimi ben Gera curses David HaMelech. David HaMelech should eat this man up, should chew him out, should get him killed. And Shimi says, Hashem, the curse is coming from God through Shimi ben Gera. No. Migadol mi David HaMelech, who is greater from David HaMelech? So again, this is all words. When it comes practice, when it comes to poil, it's difficult, so I acknowledge that. But the alternative is worse. And I've seen it, and in my own life, because you get very upset, hot under the collar, outrageous, and you want to do things, or you do things that are hurtful, then you regret it. So it's better to sit back and to just let it pass. Let's continue. Okay. He says, back to the text. So he says, Ki al atzmai, top the first line on page 71. Ki al atzmai yochel imtzei cheshben shen magil lo yisunu chashon. A person about himself can find reasons why he has troubles and torture and suffering. Because there's no good deeds. As Chazal say, if a person sees punishment torture, pain come upon him, suffering. You fashion by myself, that's a chazal, you have to check yourself out. What did I do wrong? And when you truly will check yourself out, surely you'll find reason why these things are coming. Or if you don't find any bad that you did, then it's because you were mavakal Talmud Torah, you didn't learn every moment, or you started alayim. And therefore you won't have anguish about it. Adarabi, kablan ba'avah. The suffering that God gives you, you'll say, I accept the avah. Shezeu tikkun nafshay. As we know, that's a tikkun for the soul that needs tikkun, as explained. Aval al zulasa, he says that Rebbe, but regarding the other person, you shouldn't make such accounts. Because you have to definitely think, who toiv b'chol prat, this other fellow is good in every detail. Don't be his judge. He is better than me. But you have to judge everyone favorably. Therefore, you have to have pain and be troubled by your friends' agony, the yisur of his suffering. You see? Yes, sir. And ask Hashem to have mercy on him. Now in the parentheses. This is what Dr. Issa said, and if you know in truth, this guy's low tov was not good. Speak to him himself. Hey fellow, what you're doing is outrageous. And give him musar between you and him, privately. You hope that he'll return to Hashem, and Hashem will have mercy on him. And Hashem will retract his anger from him. When you don't have any pain and troubled by the other person's downfall, and the and surely when you're happy about it, it's because the foundation is you hate him. You hate him, Yaini, without any reason. So this is the question. You know, when I always go back to what Yaini said 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago with George Soros. I'll never forget that conversation. And now you mentioned this, or you know, the fellows in Iran and all that. The Rebbe is positioning here that you've grabbed on, attached to one person or a group of people. The truth is, that's only an excuse. You have a hatred either to him, pre what he did, or pre the group. Now, I know you're going to argue. What do you mean? I have nothing to do with them. No. Certain people rub you the wrong way. That's the bottom line. Chaim Zev. Certain people rub us the wrong way. How many times you come into a room, you never met the person, and someone looks at you like so strange. What did I do to you? I just don't like you. It's such a bad midah. It's such an ugly midah. Why don't you like me? What? I just don't like you. You just stay away. Stay away. That's what he's talking about here. So it's a heavy Indian, and it needs, like you say, a lot of work. But that's the avodah. Chevra, we will learn tomorrow, Mr. Shem, the next chapter. Everyone have a great day. Zayt Shalom. Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.